I'd like to start this morning by trying a couple of jokes on you, which came out of an early morning Christmas cracker. So we'll try this side first, then this side, okay? Knock, knock.
Who's there?
I sing.
I sing.
I sing carols, you pay me. Ready? Knock, knock.
Who's there?
You.
You.
You'll see if you open the door. Actually, in my experience, knocking on closed doors isn't a laughing matter. At the age of 18, before I went to university, I took a year out. I wanted to get some experience in industry. I found myself knocking on closed doors. No, I wasn't selling anything. I was actually trying to find somewhere to live. During that year, the company I worked for sent me to 3 towns in the United Kingdom. And in each place, they would put me up in a hotel for a few days. Then I was expected to find lodgings for the rest of my stay. I can still remember the panic as I stood on numerous doorsteps, listening to very apologetic people saying to me, "Sorry, no room." I didn't have a very pregnant wife in tow, and I didn't end up in a stable. I did eventually find 3 homes prepared to make room for me. It was a depressing experience to feel excluded. It was a huge relief when I found someone to make room for me. Jesus Christ was born into a society full of invisible no room signs. You couldn't see them, but you could feel them. And wherever Jesus went, he made a point of making this message that we needed to make room. So when his disciples said there's no room for children in their busy agendas, Jesus said, nonsense. Let's make room for them. We might learn a thing or two from them. And whenever he found foreigners facing no room signs from the locals, he would have none of it. He once used a whip to make room for them in the outer court of the temple. And whenever he found no room signs posted against the physically challenged, for instance, the paralyzed man who was let down through the roof, or the heavily infectious and the social outcasts, like the many lepers he healed, Jesus would often go out of his way to make room for them by what he did and by what he said. And in a society in which religion played a big part, Jesus' verdict on much of it was, there's no room for God in what you're doing. So it wasn't just in Bethlehem that no room signs were hanging. It wasn't just in Israel then either. No room signs hang in every part of our world. In Belfast, still between Protestant and Catholic. In Bosnia, as we remember, between Orthodox and Muslim. Even in Britain's streets. In every corner of the world, still against women and children and people of different colours and creeds. And in Bethlehem, as we've heard all too painfully from Salim Anaya this morning. But make room is still the message of Jesus. And there are many reasons for listening to him. Firstly, he knows what he's talking about. From his birth to his death, he faced no room signs. He suffered the ultimate exclusion, death by crucifixion. And Jesus shares the grief of those excluded by others. He understands the pain, the panic, the isolation. He identifies with those who are excluded to such an extent that if, like Papa Panov, you make room for them, it's like making room for him. Secondly, he knows what it takes to make room for him. It took sacrifice and courage for Mary to make room for him, for Joseph to make room for him in his plans, for the shepherds to make room for him in their work, for the wise men to make room for him in their travels. He knows the reassurance people need. Fear not. The reminder of that incredible joy that will follow when we change our signs from no room to make room. Thirdly, and finally, he knows where to start. Where did I start? Knocking on closed doors. Where did Mary and Joseph start? Knocking on closed doors. So where does Jesus start? Knocking on closed doors. Here I am, says Jesus in the book of Revelation. I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in and eat with them and they with me. Incredibly, Jesus Christ still knocks at the door of human hearts, looking for a place to live, to be born again, actually. God's Son still waits for us to make room for him. What one thing can each of us do this Christmas Day to make room for someone we've shut out? Whether it's a family member we haven't talked to for years, or a neighbor of a different color or creed whom we've ignored, or even for Jesus Christ. He knocks. He waits. He knocks. He waits. Will the door be opened? Are we like Herod? Or will we make room for Jesus as Mary and Joseph did?